consecutively knocked all the other rods out, and I heard it go. I left it off the gas, got the chutes out. I heard something come up through the floor. I looked down, there was a little end of a connecting rod, so the connecting rod came up, hit the track, came up through the floor all the way through, and the big end of the rod got caught on the floor to keep it from coming all the way through. Hey guys, Tim McCamus out in the shop tonight, and we are going to talk about some lower engine containment devices. So in the realm of racing, these are kind of the slang for these is going to be engine diaper, but what they are is a device that's used to help contain the bottom end of the engine if there's a catastrophe. So back 25 years ago, 30 years ago, when I first started racing, these did not exist. Even the idea didn't exist in them. You just ran the car with sheet metal oil pan hanging down there, and when things got bad, they got really bad. I was at an event with, I drove a lot of cars over the years, but we spent some time racing with J.W. Sealock, and he had a really cool Avenger that we built for him. This is back in the early days of Pro Modified. That car was tuned by Bill Barrett, and he was an awesome tuner. I mean, he was phenomenal. But he liked to live life on the edge. Like we were running quarter mile then, and that's when you needed to be off the gas at about 1,319 feet, because that's all he was going to give you. That thing was super fast down the back, but it was on the verge of bad shit happening. So we were on a run, and we were number 1 or 2 qualifier. Back in those days, the shutdown area of the track, the past the finish line, they mostly had these Armco barriers, steel barriers, and I-beams holding them into the ground. And so this car was on a run. It was super fast, and just before the finish line, you know, this thing's we're shifting this thing around 10.2, 10.3. It decides to shit the bottom edge of the engine out. So you could always tell right before it happened, because this thing would pull really hard because it was running a little lean, and it would super quick, and then it would let go. And when it did, I mean, it let go, and when them engines let go at over 10,000, they make a mess. It knocked a rod out of it, which consecutively knocked all the other rods out, and I heard it go. I left it off the gas, got the chutes out, and as soon as I did, I heard something come up through the floor. I looked down, there was a little end of a connecting rod, so the connecting rod came up, hit the track, came up through the floor all the way through, and the big end of the rod got caught on the floor to keep it from coming all the way through. So I'm looking down in between my legs, and I'm like, God damn, this is going to be ugly. So we are now dumping all the oil in this thing out on the racetrack at 218, 19 miles an hour. Chutes are out, this thing starts sliding in the oil. The chutes blossomed and straightened the car out, but like I said, we're back in the old days of these Armco barriers. This thing slid over against the guardrail. It didn't touch the guardrail, but as soon as it did, the chutes swooped over and caught on that Armco barrier and popped both chutes off the back of the car. So I felt it jerk the car around, and then the car picked up speed, and I'm like, ah, crap, we lost a pair of chutes. So the track guy down on the very far end, they step out in the track to flag you off, but we're still running way over 200 when we get to him. And he dives out of the way. There's no way to stop this car. I mean, it is sliding in 6 gallons of oil. And we went past him into the sand head on, and luckily the car went in straight, and we had very minimal damage. I mean, we were able to put another engine in and get back for the next round. But these things weren't around then, okay? So this is just an example. Now that turned out okay, other than the engine damage. I mean, there was no damage to the car, everything was fine. We just pulled it back out of the sand and went on. But these, a few years later, started to kind of be developed, and now they're actually mandatory in several classes for, depending on which class you run and what sanctioning body you run, they can be required, and they shouldn't need to be required, okay? This should be on every car on the racetrack. Doesn't matter how quick your car is, how fast it is, how slow it is, whatever. The oil pans on these things are not made to contain anything. At any kind of RPM, a connecting rod is going to go through them. And number one, you're ruining the track. So it took probably 2 hours to clean up the mess I made, because it was from the finish line all the way to the sand trap. So you're jacking up the track, especially if it happens on the racing surface. You're screwing that up with a thick viscosity racing oil, and it goes everywhere. But again, the safety standpoint of it is just out of bounds. I mean, it's like, you know, these cars, when you see most of these wrecks happen because the car got some kind of fluid, whether it's oil or brake fluid or whatever it can be. They get in a little bit of oil, and it gets under one tire, you're in the wall, okay? So these, like I said, they shouldn't really need to be required. They should be standard on every car. And these are made by our friends at Stroud, and they make a variety of these. So we got a few of them laid out here. Now on this side here, you're talking about, these are non-SFI'd, so some classes are going to require an SFI certified diaper, meaning that it's made with certain layers of nylon and Kevlar. It's got certain absorbent in it. It's got a lot of specs that it meets, okay? These are non-SFI, so they're much more economical. Like, for instance, this one here is the base. It's a basic nylon lower engine containment system that has absorbent in it. So these things all are going to have like this padding in here, which is going to help contain that oil in here. This is going to soak up the oil and try to keep it from going out onto the track. Now, these things aren't foolproof. You know, you can still get some leakage out of them, but if you put them on right, it will almost contain it every time. So these are very nice. They're very easy to put on. They got 4 straps on them. You can bolt them to the header flange. You can strap them to the chassis. They've got a little quick spring-loaded latch here. They're super easy to put on. You can get into something like this for 125 bucks, okay? So think about how much you spent on this car and the engine and all of this stuff. So thing shits a connecting rod out, you get in the oil, get over into the guardrail, maybe you got a front-mounted fuel cell, next thing you know, blows all the fuel out of it, car's on fire, so whatever's not crunched up is now burning, and track guys are trying to get close enough to it to get it put out. So in my opinion, no matter what class you run, all the way from a bracket racer, if you're on the racetrack, you should have this. Don't care what class you're in or how fast you're in, you should have this. It is a minor investment, and it is a huge saver of chassis, body, life, whatever you want to say. This thing will help, okay? Now, like I said, it's not foolproof. Can still have issues if you don't put it on right, but it's a super nice safety device that is very inexpensive. So again, if you go with the SFI version, this one here is more custom made. It's made specifically to fit, so you can have these cut and sewn exactly to fit your pan, the shape of your block. You can get all the way up into 5, 6, 7, 800, 900 bucks, 1,000 bucks, whatever they are. But again, so what if it's 1,000? So what if it's 1,500 bucks? It's worth it, okay? These are very inexpensive, but even if you're paying more for it, it is worth it. So what I'm gonna do is, we have one of these mounted on our display chassis here, and I wanna go over some of the things that we see, the errors, the wrong way to put them on, the right way to put them on, the best way to measure it, and just a few steps that will, because if you can buy this, but if you put it on wrong and it doesn't fit right, it's not going to do anything. I mean, the oil's coming out, so you've got to make this thing fit so that it contains that. So I'm going to run you through this one we've got mounted on the chassis here, and show you what we see sometimes and ways you can get around that. So if you got just a second, we'll go over to that chassis and we'll run through that. All right, guys, so take a peek at this. We put this aluminized one on here because it's easier to see. So this is another version. This is a aluminized fabric coating here, and this is a very nice non-SFI diaper too. And it just fits really good, and this outer material makes it real easy to hold its shape. So it's really, really nice. And it fits this extremely well. Now this is a supercharged engine, so obviously we've got different pan widths, depths, lengths, all that stuff needs taken into consideration. And when you order these, you can fill out a form with Stroud, and they'll either custom make one for you or fit one to your application that they already have. So you can see this one just has 2 straps. Now that SFI one, it's going to have 3 straps or 6 mounting points. So it's going to hold it up here in the center. But this one fits really well, and it's kind of like there isn't such thing as a universal fit, so you've got to make sure that it's going to fit your application, and it can't be caught on anything that's going to roll the edge over. So you can see that we've got it kind of made like a bucket here, you know, so we've got absorbent in here, so there's 3 layers of absorbent, and then it's fit nice and straight. Now, you know, some of these engines might have an oil pump here, and they might have some lines coming out, and so this is kind of set up like a wet sump application, but when you put a dry sump on it, you're going to have a lot more stuff. But that's easy to do. You just have to work around it when you do your dimensions. So you have to make sure that these things hold their shape as much of a bucket-like system as you can. And if you have to service the bottom end of the engine, it takes a little more time to fit these things so that you can get them on and off quickly. And a lot of times, we wouldn't even take them all the way off. We'd just loosen one side and just push it over to the other side and leave it hanging. So especially in between rounds if you need to knock the pan off of it. But for some of you guys that may not service it that much, you know, you can take a little more time to fit it right. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, poking a few holes in the ends of this thing. You can take like a long pick and heat it up and burn a hole through here that you can put a zip tie on, like if you've got a bracket or a clamp or a hose or anything that will help hold it up, because you know, when something bad happens to the engine here, there's a lot of force and there's a lot of shit going on inside here at a high RPM. So when it does need to work, you want to make sure that it is attached properly. So I've got this one just attached to this double frame rail. Now you may not have a double frame rail, so you might have to use the tabs that are included in this to bolt to the bottom side of the header flange. So you're going to have tabs that bolt up here that are going to, the strap's going to go through instead of going over the frame rail like I have it on this chassis. So we see this a lot where guys will have like maybe a hose in the way or something, or a fitting or some part of the block, and they'll just cut it. You know, they'll take a razor knife and slice this just to get it around something. Well, all that does is make a pour spout for the oil to come out of. So you cannot do that. You have to keep this contained up and have to have walls around it to contain the oil. The idea is for the oil to stay in there and to soak up in that absorbent. So front and back, you have to make sure that the edges aren't rolled over, because I mean sometimes you might have a starter over here, so you have another little problem to deal with. You might have a starter on either side here, but that's going to make this the profile of this going to be wider, you know. So this is going to, even if this had a starter on it, this one would still fit. I've just got it sucked up tight here because we don't have a starter on this block. But there's going to be other things that you have to work around. Every application is going to be different, but for the most part, these kind of universal fit ones here do really well, and this one actually happened to fit perfect on this wet sump pan. So you really have to pay attention to how, you can see I've got it tight. I mean, it's right up against the bottom of the pan. The only thing that is holding it down is just the absorbent liner. So this one fits really well, and this would do a good job. So just remember, you know, crankshaft spinning here 8, 9, 10,000, and rod brakes, there's a lot of stuff coming through that aluminum pan. So you want to hold that up tight. Now, another thing that I don't have on here right now is the carbon belly pan, which is another asset to this whole program. Now, you may not need a belly pan, but in an application like this, we would almost certainly have it on every one. Okay, so because of that, we need a secondary source to catch any excess that may escape this. So we make a carbon pan that comes up and tucks up behind the engine, and it comes up here just about to the crankshaft, and it comes all the way over to the frame rail here, and it captures all the way up to the outside. It comes down and fits tight. Does two things. It helps catch anything that might escape, and it also keeps this up nice and tight up against the bottom of the oil pan, because
these things will have a tendency, I mean, this is in a controlled environment here, but when you're out at the track and the temperature's up, the engine's hot, you know, these things can sag a little bit. They can have a little bit of a droop to them, and that can drastically affect your starting line procedure, because obviously you can see we're right behind the front tires here. So if this thing, and this was very common when these first came out, was some guys were purposely letting these hang loose because it's called dragging the diaper. So which means that you're going to get a lot longer rollout. So if you let this thing hang down, it's the beam is not going to break on the back side of this tire here. It's going to keep extending until it gets back past the oil pan. So you get some phenomenal early numbers, but they're bogus. So you get, you know, your ET is way blown out of shape. But you know, you want to keep this thing up tight and keep the bottom of the car clear. So when this has the carbon belly pan on it, it fits back here to the mid plate. It fits tight to the frame. It fits zero fit all the way around here and up to the front. So we have two sources of recovery here for anything that might leak out of the engine. The first one being this Stroud lower engine containment, and then the belly pan. So again, guys, take a look at these things. Like I said, they're not expensive, and they're worth their weight in gold if you need them. I mean, now you may do this for 10 years and you never have an issue. You might do it for your whole life. You know, if you run a drag car your whole entire career, never break a rod or never poke a hole in the oil pan, you're doing pretty damn good. So, but they're not needed until they're needed. Okay, so these things should be on any car that hits the racetrack. I don't care how quick it is, but it is worth it. So think about that. Look at the different styles we have, and you can custom one, or you can get a standard one that is going to be very economical to fit on your application. So this particular one would fit on probably 60 or 70% of everything out there. So if you have any questions on these, call our guys and they'll be glad to help you out. Look at them on our website. Stroud's got a lot of information on their website, but we've been dealing with Stroud for a lot of years, and they do a great job. These are very well built, and the quality is extremely high, and they're all USA made. You can see the little tag right there. See the little flag? No Chinese flag on this shit. All right, American flag. If you guys have some questions or need some more info, give us a call and we will help you out. So I'm out for tonight. I'll talk to you later.
You gonna sleep there?
Not really, because all the blood is run to the top of my head.